The Galactic Council, a vast assembly of the most advanced and powerful species in the universe, sat in its massive chamber. Species from across the galaxy gathered in a sprawling circle, their representatives floating in the air, their eyes gleaming with a mixture of wisdom and superiority. The room buzzed with the energy of thousands of years of combined knowledge, and it was a place where the fate of galaxies was decided. But today, the air was thick with laughter. The humans, just a fledgling species from a little-known planet called Earth, had arrived at the Council's invitation, only to be mocked. Humanity had sent its most respected diplomat, Ambassador Erica Davis, to represent their people. She stood in the center of the great chamber, a stark contrast to the towering figures of the aliens surrounding her. The humans were a mere speck in the vastness of the galaxy, their technological prowess nowhere near the sophistication of the galactic powers. They lacked the telepathy of the Valkyrie, the ancient wisdom of the Ardu, or the psychic manipulation of the Alcrorians. Even their starships were outdated compared to the sleek, living vessels of the other races. Ambassador Davis had expected a great deal of skepticism, but she had not expected outright mockery. "You bring nothing to the table, human," Zaru, the Valkyrie representative, boomed with a voice that echoed through the chamber. "Your people are primitive, barely out of the Stone Age. What use could you possibly be to the Galactic Council?" Erica straightened, meeting Zaru's fierce gaze with unwavering resolve. She had been trained for this moment. "We may be new to the galactic stage," she said calmly, "but we possess something no other species here does, the ability to adapt. We have learned, grown, and evolved faster than any race in this room. Give us time, and we will prove our worth." The laughter that followed was deafening. The Alcrorians, who were known for their ability to manipulate matter with their minds, twisted the air around them into mocking shapes of human figures. The Ardu, whose collective consciousness had seen the rise and fall of civilizations for millennia, snickered behind their collective screens. Even the quietest of the species, the Shoshin, whose mere presence was an aura of serenity, vibrated with amusement. Adapt? In what way? Juno, the Alcrorian representative, asked with a sneer. "You barely know how to travel beyond your own star system. And you call yourselves capable?" Erica gritted her teeth. She had to stay composed. "You underestimate us. Humanity has a unique gift. We don't just adapt to our environment, we thrive in the face of adversity. We've faced extinction time and time again, and we've come out stronger each time." "Oh yes," Zaru said sarcastically, "the humans who survived their own wars, their own self-destructive tendencies. You expect us to believe you can contribute anything of value to the greater good?" The laughter rose once more, louder than before. It was then that Erica realized the true nature of the Council. They saw themselves as superior, and the idea of a species like humanity, fragile, emotional, and seemingly doomed to repeat their past mistakes, ever achieving anything of significance was laughable. But Erica had known this was coming. She had expected it. The human race had always been underestimated by others, whether it was other species or their own kind. She knew their potential, even if the galaxy did not. What they didn't know was that humanity had already started to do the one thing the Council had never expected: work in secret. For years, the brightest minds from Earth had been preparing, quietly amassing technology, knowledge, and power. They had reverse-engineered alien technologies in secret. They had begun to form alliances of their own, learning from every race they encountered. They had developed weapons and ships beyond the Council's comprehension, hidden away, far from prying eyes. Humanity was playing a long game. The Galactic Council had no idea just how much they had underestimated them. The Council's laughter began to die down, but Erica knew it would take more than words to convince them. And in that moment, as she stood alone before the most powerful beings in the galaxy, she felt the weight of what was to come. It wasn't just about proving humanity's worth, it was about showing them the power of determination. The power of survival. The power of human spirit. And soon, they would see just how dangerous it was to laugh at the humans. The Council's laughter had died down, but the air in the chamber still carried the stench of mockery. Erica stood unwavering, but inside, she was seething. She had expected this, but it was one thing to anticipate dismissal and another to experience it firsthand. The members of the council were still exchanging amused glances, too arrogant to even consider the possibility that this mere human might be speaking the truth. But there was a shift, subtle, almost imperceptible. A glimmer of something deeper, darker, that hung in the air like the calm before a storm. Erica had felt it the moment she entered the chamber, a sense of unease creeping under her skin. Humanity had been underestimated for far too long, and the time had come for that to change. Zaru's booming voice broke the silence once more, his tone dripping with condescension. You wish to join the Galactic Council, human? You must first prove your worth. What can you offer that we cannot already accomplish ourselves? You're nothing but a footnote in the galactic history books. You should be thankful we've even allowed you into this chamber. Erica took a breath, her calm exterior hiding the fire within. You want proof? She asked, her voice sharp. Very well. I'll give you proof. With a subtle motion of her hand, she activated the device she had hidden beneath her jacket. It was small, unassuming, almost like a wristband. But within it lay the culmination of years of human ingenuity. As Erica pressed a button, a holographic projection flared to life above her. The council's laughter faltered. What they saw was not the primitive technology they had expected from humanity. The hologram was a map, a star map, to be precise. But this was no ordinary map. It was a blueprint of the galaxy, with thousands of points of light connected by lines of energy, lines that pulsed with an eerie glow, the distinct signature of a type of power no one had seen before. Behold, Erica said with a sense of finality, human ingenuity in action. The council members leaned forward, their attention now fully fixed on the projection. It was no longer a joke. The map showed a vast network of energy streams that spanned the galaxy, connecting star systems, planets, and even distant galaxies. And at the heart of this map was Earth, humanity's home. Zaru's face contorted in disbelief. This is impossible. This energy signature, it's unfamiliar? Erica finished for him. That's because we've tapped into something ancient, something no one, not even your species, has fully understood. We call it the stellar web. A network of energy that flows through the fabric of space itself. The potential for harnessing this power is beyond anything you can imagine. The chamber grew eerily quiet. Even the Alcrorians, who prided themselves on their mastery of matter and energy, seemed unsure of what they were seeing. The stellar web is what will elevate humanity beyond your wildest expectations, Erica continued. We've already begun to tap into its energy. Our ships can move faster than light using the web. We've harnessed its power to create new weapons, defenses, energy shields that can withstand even the most devastating attacks. This map shows the locations where we've planted nodes, each one a beacon of human achievement. Juno, the Alcrorian representative, spoke for the first time since the hologram appeared. But if what you say is true, human, why has no one heard of this before? Why has the council not discovered it? Erica's lips curled into a tight smile. Because you weren't looking for it. The stellar web is not a physical structure you can detect with sensors. It's woven into the very fabric of space. Only those who are attuned to it can truly see it. Humanity has the unique ability to adapt to its rhythms. The room was now thick with tension. The arrogance of the council had vanished, replaced with a quiet apprehension. They had underestimated humanity's potential, but now they were faced with the realization that Earth was hiding something far greater than they could have imagined. Zaru shifted uncomfortably. This changes things. Erica nodded, but her voice was unwavering. Indeed. You wanted proof. Now you have it. Humanity has the power to shape the galaxy as we see fit. And we're not asking for permission. The council members exchanged looks, their once confident postures faltering. In that moment, they realized that the species they had laughed at, dismissed as insignificant, was not only a threat but a force that could reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. And they had only just begun to see the true extent of humanity's capabilities. The silence in the council chamber was deafening. The hologram of the stellar web flickered above Erica, its intricate patterns now burned into the minds of every representative in the room. The smugness that had once defined the council members' demeanor was now replaced with uncertainty. They had been forced to confront the reality that humanity had something none of them had anticipated. But while some of the council members shifted uncomfortably, others, more calculating, saw the opportunity presented before them. It was Zaru, the Valkyrie representative, who broke the silence first. His voice, though still laced with disbelief, was more measured now. This stellar web. You claim to have discovered and harnessed it? Zaru asked, his tone no longer mocking but tinged with genuine curiosity. But how? If your species is as primitive as we thought, how could you have accomplished such a feat? Erica's gaze never wavered as she answered, humanity's greatest strength has always been its drive. When we face obstacles, we don't give up. We don't surrender. We adapt. The stellar web isn't just some accident of nature, it's a system that, until now, was hidden from the universe. We discovered it by accident, yes, but we understood its potential. And we've been tapping into it in secret for years. Zaru looked at his fellow representatives, his mind racing. The implications of what he was hearing were immense. If what Erica claimed was true, humanity had not just developed advanced technology, it had uncovered a force that could rival the oldest, most powerful species in the galaxy. The Valkyrie were a race of explorers, but even they had never encountered anything like this. Juno, the Alcrorian, raised an eyebrow. You expect us to believe that a species so young, so chaotic, could unlock something as profound as the stellar web? What makes you think you're ready to wield such power? Erica's eyes hardened. Because we are. You may have centuries, even millennia of knowledge, but in those years, you've grown complacent. We, on the other hand, are hungry. We don't have the luxury of time. We must evolve or perish. We've chosen evolution. The council members were now looking at each other, not with disdain, but with growing concern. The Alcrorians were masters of telepathy and could manipulate matter, but even they could sense the depth of Erica's conviction. Humanity was no longer the naive species they had once believed it to be. They were a force to be reckoned with. Then, unexpectedly, the Shoshin representative, a silent and almost ethereal being, spoke. Their species had long believed in the power of balance, in the harmony of the universe. This web, they said softly, if it is as you say, could tip the scales of the galaxy. The balance we have fought to maintain for eons, it could be shattered. A tense hush fell over the chamber as every representative considered the Shoshin's words. It was clear now that humanity's discovery wasn't just a matter of technological advancement, it had the potential to disrupt the very foundations of the galaxy's political structure. Zaru turned to Erica, his earlier arrogance now replaced by a more cautious tone. And what is it that you want, human? What do you seek from the Galactic Council? Erica's eyes narrowed, and for a brief moment, she allowed herself to look at the stars outside the council chamber, her mind drifting to the future she and humanity could build. We don't want your approval, she said firmly. We don't need it. We've already started building our future. What we want is to ensure that we don't have to do it alone. There was a collective shift in the room, as the council members realized what she was truly offering, and what she was asking for. Humanity wasn't simply asking for a seat at the table. They were offering a partnership, a chance to share in the power of the stellar web, to stand alongside the great powers of the galaxy. And yet, there was an edge to her words that was impossible to ignore. Humanity wasn't just seeking allies. They were seeking power. The kind of power that could rival anything the council had ever known. Erica's words rang out, carrying a weight that no one in the room could escape. We are no longer the underdogs. If the Galactic Council is truly as enlightened as it claims, then you will understand that the future is not a place for old hierarchies and ancient rivalries. The future is for those who are willing to adapt, and humanity is ready to lead. The chamber was still. The tension hung in the air like a blade, waiting for the council to make its move. The great powers of the galaxy, so accustomed to being the unquestioned rulers, now found themselves facing a species that had dared to reach beyond its limits. They had laughed at humanity, dismissed it as a fleeting footnote in the grand story of the galaxy. But that had been before. Now, the laughter had died. Now, the future was uncertain. And for the first time in millennia, the Galactic Council realized that it was no longer the most powerful force in the galaxy. The moment of silence stretched on, thick and suffocating. Erica stood firm, feeling the weight of the Council's collective gaze pressing down on her. The power she had just unleashed, both in the form of the stellar web and her words, hung in the balance. The Council had been forced to reconsider humanity, but would they truly embrace this new reality or would they attempt to crush it before it could fully manifest? Zaru, the Valkyrie representative, finally spoke. His voice was now cautious, no longer dripping with mockery but filled with a rare tension. You claim that humanity can shape the future of the galaxy, but do you think that you are the only ones with access to power? The stellar web, as you call it, may be an advantage, but it is still untested, unproven. There is no guarantee that your species will not fall into the same traps that every other young species has. Erica's jaw tightened. Zaru's words stung, but they were expected. The Valkyrie and other species had seen countless civilizations rise and fall, often due to their own overconfidence or destructive tendencies. Still, Erica couldn't afford to back down. Not now. You think we'll fail, like the others, she said coldly. But we've already proven that we learn from our mistakes. And this time, we're not asking for your permission. The words lingered in the air, defiant and firm. The Council's skepticism was still apparent, but there was no denying that the human race had tapped into something beyond their comprehension. Something that could change the very fabric of galactic power. Erica turned and walked towards the hologram, a faint smile tugging at the corners of her lips. We don't need you to survive. But your cooperation would make us stronger, and this galaxy better. As she spoke, her mind raced with possibilities. Humanity was no longer the underdog. They were a force waiting to be unleashed, a power that could bend the universe to their will, if they played their cards right. And the first step was making the Galactic Council realize that their mockery had only fueled the fire inside humanity. It was no longer about proving their worth, it was about dominating a galaxy that had forgotten the meaning of humility. The Shoshin representative, who had been silent since their initial remark, spoke again, their voice serene but laced with caution. You speak of power, human. But power unchecked is a dangerous thing. The balance of the galaxy, our alliances, our treaties, has held for eons. Are you so certain that your actions will not disrupt that balance? There are those who will not accept such a shift. Erica's eyes narrowed. I'm not asking for your approval. I'm asking for your understanding. You can stand by and watch as humanity rises, or you can join us. The choice is yours. But there was something more, a deeper realization forming in her mind. As she spoke to the Council, Erica understood that it wasn't just about seeking alliances. Some species, like the Valkyrie and the Alcrorians, would never accept humanity's rise without opposition. They would fight to maintain the status quo, to keep their dominance in the galaxy. And there were others who would recognize the shift in power and seize the opportunity to take action. The question was no longer if the galaxy would change, but how it would change. Her words echoed in the chamber, but the seeds of rebellion had already been planted. Erica could feel the stirring of unrest within the Council. There were whispers now, of factions who would either join humanity in their quest for dominance, or who would rise up to challenge them. The galaxy was about to fracture, and the lines between ally and enemy would soon be drawn. Zaru sneered, but his voice was tinged with something else now, fear, perhaps. You think we will simply let your species take over? You may have discovered the stellar web, but we control the galaxy's infrastructure. We hold the power to crush you. And we will not hesitate to do so if you threaten our dominion. For the first time, Erica saw a crack in his confidence. He knew something that she didn't. Something she had not yet fully grasped. The infrastructure you hold is already crumbling, she said, a chill creeping into her voice. It's only a matter of time before it's no longer enough to keep the galaxy in check. The room went still again as those words sank in. The council's facade was cracking. Erica's revelation, her discovery, had shattered the illusion of stability that the Galactic Council had built over millennia. The balance of power was about to shift, and those who clung to the past would find themselves left behind. Outside the chamber, the hum of activity continued, alien diplomats moving through the halls, servants tending to the needs of the council members, the machinery of an empire grinding forward. But in this moment, it all felt fragile. Humanity had planted the spark. The galaxy was about to burn. Erica turned back to the council, her voice cold and resolute. You're right. There will be resistance. There always is. But humanity has learned how to survive in the face of it. And now, we will teach you how to adapt, or be left in the dust. The tension in the council chamber reached a boiling point. The once unified presence of the galaxy's most powerful species was splintering, the seams beginning to show. A realization had settled over the representatives like a cold mist: humanity was no longer simply a curiosity. They were a challenge, an anomaly that could not be ignored. And worse, they were a challenge that couldn't be easily crushed. But beneath the surface, in the darker corners of the galaxy, something else was happening. A series of discreet, secretive meetings had begun, far from the prying eyes of the Galactic Council. Here, far from the center of power, a new force was quietly gathering strength. Humanity had become the catalyst for something bigger. Something that would soon change the very nature of galactic politics. Ambassador Erica Davis, though standing at the heart of the storm, was unaware of the full extent of what was unfolding. She had ignited the spark of rebellion within the council, but others, far from the official power structures, had begun to take matters into their own hands. In the outer rim of the galaxy, a group of disenfranchised species had already begun to take action. These were the ones who had been forgotten by the great powers of the council. The ones who had never had a voice, a seat at the table. But now, in the wake of humanity's rise, they saw an opportunity to fight for their own place in the galaxy. It was in the shadow of these marginalized species that a new alliance was born, the Shadow Syndicate. Their goals were simple but profound: to dismantle the corrupt foundations of the Galactic Council and replace it with a more egalitarian structure, one in which power wasn't controlled by just a handful of ancient, powerful species. The leader of the syndicate was a figure known only as the Architect. No one had ever seen the Architect's face, and very few knew their true identity. What was clear, however, was that they were a brilliant strategist and manipulator, a master of secrets. And the Architect understood that the key to toppling the Galactic Council lay not in direct confrontation, but in subtlety, in influence. When they had first learned of humanity's discovery of the stellar web, the Architect had seen potential. The humans had tapped into an ancient power, yes, but they were only the beginning. If humanity could see past their own immediate ambitions, if they could be made to understand that this new power belonged to everyone, then the balance of power in the galaxy could truly shift. The Architect had been watching Erica Davis closely. They had seen her words and actions in the council chamber and had recognized her unyielding spirit. It was a spirit they could work with, a spirit that could be harnessed for a greater cause. Humanity might have stumbled into the discovery of the stellar web, but they had the strength to make it their own. But before Erica could know it, the Architect had already begun to weave their influence. Their spies had infiltrated key systems, spreading rumors, whispers, and misinformation to drive wedges between the council's factions. The syndicate's influence was growing, quiet but undeniable. As for the council, the cracks were growing deeper. There were those, particularly among the younger species and the disillusioned, who were beginning to question the old order. They had watched as the Valkyrie Nalcrorians held their power for centuries, pushing aside any who threatened their dominance. These younger species, those who had long been relegated to the fringes, saw in humanity something they had never seen before, a species that dared to challenge the status quo. It wasn't long before the first covert acts of rebellion began. Ships from the outer rim, once constrained by the Council's laws, now began to move freely. These ships didn't belong to any one species, they were a patchwork fleet of humans, Shoshin, and those who had long been ignored by the great powers. They would strike at key council installations, disrupt communications, sabotage military operations. Their goal was not open war, but to destabilize the council from within. The syndicate had long understood the value of secrecy and subtlety. Their forces were vast but hidden, their operations cloaked in darkness. And they knew that the true battle would not be fought in the open, but in the shadows, where power could be shifted without the council even realizing it until it was too late. Erica Davis, still standing at the center of the council, was oblivious to the larger picture unfolding beyond the chamber's walls. She could feel the tension rising, the uncertainty gnawing at the edges of the council's authority. But her focus remained on one thing: ensuring humanity's survival and success. She had made her intentions clear: to reshape the galaxy, to ensure humanity's place in the stars. But she had not yet realized that others were moving in the background, pulling strings, laying the groundwork for an even greater upheaval. Soon, the council would feel the full force of rebellion, not just from humanity, but from an entire coalition of forgotten species who had decided that they, too, would rise. And in the process, they would push the council to the brink of collapse. The Shadow Syndicate's plan was already in motion. And the galaxy was about to experience a revolution, one that no one could have predicted.
The Galactic Council had always prided itself on its unity and control over the galaxy. For centuries, the great species of the Council had maintained their dominance, their power unchallenged by anything or anyone. But now, whispers of dissent and rebellion echoed through the corridors of the galactic capital. The seeds of unrest were sprouting faster than they could be contained, and the council had no idea how to quell the growing storm. Erica Davis felt the shift, though in the midst of it, she didn't fully understand its scale. The tension in the council chamber was palpable, a quiet simmering rage beneath every word spoken, every glance exchanged. As she continued her efforts to push humanity's place in the galaxy forward, she could sense that something was on the verge of breaking. But what she didn't know was that her presence had inadvertently triggered a cascade of events, ones that had already set the galaxy on the path to a much greater conflict. In the Outer Rim, the Shadow Syndicate's influence was growing rapidly. The Architect's plan was beginning to bear fruit. Humanity's unexpected rise had proven to be a catalyst for other species long silenced by the Council's iron grip. But rather than viewing humanity as an ally in their bid for freedom, they saw them as a weapon to be used. If humanity could lead the charge, then they would gladly follow. The Syndicate's actions were subtle but devastating. Their operatives had infiltrated key systems, hacked into Council military databases, and secretly rallied the disenfranchised fleets of the Outer Rim. They struck in the dead of night, attacking critical infrastructure, communications hubs, energy resources, and supply lines. In each attack, no single species took the blame. Instead, the attack seemed like random, disjointed acts of rebellion from different corners of the galaxy. It was chaos, controlled chaos. The first major strike came when Syndicate forces disabled the Council's primary communications relay, cutting off vital interstellar communication between the central systems. Entire sectors of the galaxy went dark, and the Council's members were left scrambling, unsure of who was behind it. Erica's fingers tightened on the edge of the Council table. She had been summoned to a special emergency session, the first of its kind in decades. The room was filled with unease, the leaders of the Council now turning on one another. Accusations flew. The Valkyrie blamed the Shoshin for failing to monitor the Outer Rim. The Alcorians pointed to the Valkyrie's own inability to maintain order in their territories. The arguments grew louder, the distrust deeper. In the midst of the chaos, a message appeared on the holotable, a cryptic transmission intercepted from the Syndicate. The voice was masked, distorted, but the message was clear: the balance is shifting. The old order is breaking. And you will either evolve or be left behind. The message sent ripples of panic through the room. The words, though simple, were a direct challenge to the core of the Council's authority. But no one knew who the Syndicate truly was, or how deep their infiltration ran. It was clear that they were not just acting out of desperation, they were orchestrating a carefully calculated revolution. What is this? Zaru, the Valkyrie representative, growled, his tone laced with fury. Who dares attack us like this? Erica, her eyes narrowing, recognized the words spoken in the transmission. The old order is breaking. It was a reminder of the very thing she had been trying to do. She understood, perhaps more than anyone else in the room, that this message was not a threat against the Council alone, it was a warning to all the powers in the galaxy, including humanity. We've created a fracture, Erica said, her voice cutting through the room. A fracture in the galactic structure. And now, it's growing. But before anyone could respond, the chamber was shaken by a loud, unexpected tremor. The lights flickered, and the ground beneath them rumbled. Alarms blared as the emergency systems kicked in. Another strike. This time, it was a direct attack on the central hub of the Council's defense fleet, a fleet that had long been regarded as invincible. The Syndicate had infiltrated its systems, overriding the fleet's command codes and redirecting ships to attack strategic points across the galaxy. Massive warships once under Council control now moved on their own, their targeting systems locked onto Council-controlled worlds and stations. The galaxy was slipping into a state of war, where that none of the established powers had seen coming. And though humanity was at the heart of the storm, they were not the only ones involved. The Shadow Syndicate had become an unstoppable force, its grip tightening around the galactic power structure. And those who had once viewed the Syndicate as mere rebels were now beginning to realize that this wasn't just a rebellion, it was a revolution. Zara slammed his fist on the table, his frustration palpable. How can we contain this? How can we fight an enemy we can't even see? Erica knew the answer. The Syndicate had anticipated this moment, and they had been planning for years. The revolution was no longer just a series of isolated attacks, it was a coordinated, galaxy-wide uprising. And the greatest weapon they had was not just their ships or their sabotage, but their ability to exploit the divisions within the Council. Each blow they struck was designed to weaken the unity of the very institutions that had once held the galaxy together. The real question, Erica said quietly, is whether the Council can survive this, or whether it will become the relic of a past age, too stubborn to change with the times. The Council members glared at her, but deep down, they knew she was right. The age of old power had ended. A new age was dawning, one in which the balance of power would no longer be controlled by a few ancient species, but by a new order that was still taking shape in the shadows. And as the galaxy began to plunge into war, the question was no longer about humanity's place among the stars. The question now was whether humanity would lead the revolution, or whether they, too, would be swept away by the tides of war.
The galaxy had become a battlefield, torn between old powers clinging to their dominance and a new generation, rising from the fringes. The Galactic Council, once an unassailable institution, was now in chaos. Strikes, sabotages, and rebellions spread like wildfire. Entire star systems that once complied with Council laws had now either fallen into Syndicate hands or declared independence. The unity that had held the galaxy together for millennia was fractured, and the once dominant powers now faced a choice: adapt or be consumed by the tide of change. Erica Davis stood before the shattered remains of the Council's war room, a symbol of the crumbling order she had helped ignite. The holographic maps displayed chaotic flashes of red and blue, battle lines being drawn, sectors falling into disarray, starships changing allegiance, and entire fleets switching sides. The Syndicate, with its network of spies, operatives, and insurgents, had turned the tide against the Council. What had started as a whisper of rebellion had become a full-scale revolution. And humanity, once dismissed as nothing more than a primitive species, had become its unlikely leader. In the wake of the attacks, the Council had attempted to regroup, but their power was shattered. Their military forces, once considered a mighty, unified force, were now fractured, some still loyal to the old regime, others choosing to join the insurgency for their own reasons. Some even defected to humanity's cause, recognizing that the future of the galaxy no longer lay with the ancient powers, but with the rising stars of species who had once been treated as insignificant. At the heart of it all was the stellar web, the discovery that had changed everything. What had once been a tool to simply enhance humanity's own power now became the beacon for a galaxy-wide movement. The web wasn't just a weapon. It was a symbol of the future, of freedom, of a new era where no species would hold absolute dominion over the rest. It was a tool of unity, a force that could empower any species, not just the ones who had held the reins for eons. As the flames of war raged across the galaxy, Erica's voice had become a rallying cry for those who sought change. The message she had delivered in the council chamber had echoed throughout the galaxy, spreading from one corner to the other, amplified by rebel fleets, sympathizers, and those who had long been silenced. It was clear now that humanity wasn't just trying to carve out a place among the stars, they were leading the charge for a new galaxy, a galaxy where every species had the right to thrive and contribute. The old order, with its centuries of complacency and hierarchical control, could no longer withstand the onslaught of change. It had made one fatal mistake, underestimating humanity's will to fight, to evolve, to push forward when others had fallen stagnant. Erica stood before a hologram of the galaxy, her fingers tracing the shifting battle lines. She knew that the war wasn't over, far from it. The council would not fall without a fight, and the syndicate, despite its growing influence, had its own challenges to face. The galaxy was a vast, complex place, and it would take more than just rebellion to reshape it. There would be resistance from those who believed in the old ways, those who had invested too much in the system to let it crumble easily. But for the first time in centuries, there was hope. Real hope. The galaxy was waking up to the fact that it could be something different, a place where the old powers were not the sole arbiters of destiny. Every species, no matter their size or strength, could contribute to the whole. The future was no longer the preserve of the ancient powers. It was open to all. In the shadows of the galaxy, the Syndicate's forces were pushing forward, making their move on key worlds, worlds that had once been untouchable. And at the front of this movement stood a coalition of species, united not by the power of ancient dynasties, but by the shared belief that the old ways were no longer enough. Humans, Shoshan, Alcorians, and others, races once considered lesser, were now standing side by side, fighting to bring down the tyrants who had ruled for too long. The final battle loomed, a battle not just for the control of the galaxy, but for its soul. Would it be an era of perpetual conflict, as the old powers tried to claw their way back to dominance? Or would it be an era of collaboration, where the galaxy's potential could be unlocked by a united front of species working together? Erica knew what her role would be. She had become the symbol of the revolution, the face of humanity's struggle to not just survive, but to lead. She had done what the council had once laughed at her species for, she had turned the tide, and now there was no turning back. Her people would fight with everything they had, not because they sought domination, but because they sought something better. The galaxy was ripe for a new vision, a vision where no species was left behind, and no species was above the rest. Humanity had led the charge, but it would not be their victory alone. It would be the victory of every species that had fought for something more. And as the fires of war burned bright, Erica couldn't help but feel that the galaxy's future was hers to shape. Humanity's rise had been improbable, but now it was unstoppable. The Galactic Council had laughed at humanity, but now, the galaxy would listen. The dawn of a new galaxy had arrived.